Hello there. Good morning, Denise and Colleen.
Well, good morning. I have to say, Fran, that I'm really excited about today's call, and I just want to welcome everyone to today's call. My name is Denise Lowness, and I am here with Frances Flynn Thorsen, and we are extremely fortunate today. We have got a very special guest, and in just a moment I'm going to let Fran introduce her, but I just want to say that I had the utmost pleasure of being able to sit down with our special guest today. We met in my hometown, and we spent hours together having just a wonderful, wonderful meeting and just chatting about all kinds of things. And I have to tell you that this lady today has a wealth of information to share. We are very lucky to have her as a guest. I am thrilled that today's call is going to be recorded so you can go back and listen to it time and time again because I know you're going to want to. But I'm really excited about the call today, and I just want to remind everyone that absolutely, if you have any questions during the call, feel free. You can email me or Fran directly. I'll give you my email because Fran's going to be so busy interviewing our special guest. So why don't you send all questions today through me, and my email is denise@thelownessgroup.com, and Lowness is spelled L-O-N-E-S. So, Fran, we don't want to waste another moment. Why don't you tell us all about our special guest today, and let's start our interview.
Well, I will. I'll get started. I won't spend too much time because we want to talk, but Colleen Kulikowski is absolutely one of the best real estate bloggers in the country. I'm really excited on a whole bunch of levels to be doing this. Number one, Colleen and I talk a lot personally. We go back and forth. We've talked about blogging. Colleen is actually the very first person who went through our government home sale professional program, working with HUD Homes, so she was the first GSAP. Her team has been through the program. She's working with HUD Homes. She is a very, very savvy, smart, brilliant realtor working in Buffalo, New York, and she's one of the first bloggers in the space. I'm going to share a couple of words from somebody that I knew who we lost last year. His name is Joe Ferrara, and Joe ran a blog called Celsius Blog. He honored Colleen back in 2009 as one of the top women bloggers, one of the top women real estate bloggers in the U.S. And here's what he said about Colleen. He said, I love Colleen's blogging style. Her blog reads like a newspaper magazine. Her posts are easy on the eyes, extremely relevant to her market, and display her sense of humor. She writes appealing headlines and uses catchy images. Colleen is a force on active reign. She is very tech-savvy. She is using her SEO skills to rule the Buffalo market. Her blog is on page 1 of Google for Buffalo homes for sale, ahead of Zillow and ahead of Realtor.com. Now that's how Colleen rocks blogging. For those who think blogging has a little ROI, talk to Colleen and learn a thing or 22. And that was what Joe wrote when, some time ago when she started to rule. Unfortunately, we lost Joe last year. He passed on. We're looking at a screen right now that shows Colleen in the middle there on the left, and another picture of another friend we lost also last year. Her name is Lori Manny, and Colleen and Lori Manny were very, very involved at Active Rain in the early days. Did an awful lot of work to help move Active Rain and make Active Rain what it became. And Colleen, let's talk a little bit about how you started blogging. You started on Active Rain, isn't that right?
Yes, I did. In July of 2006, I was one of the first users that were on the system.
Wow, and Lori Manny. And for those of you who don't know Lori Manny was one of the top bloggers. Again, she passed away last year, but she was one of the leaders. I mean, she was one of the first people to have thousands of unique visitors on her page every day. She owned the market. She owned the long tail in Long Beach, California, did a lot of work, and she and Colleen, you and she worked really, really closely. And what I loved, I didn't even know this until 2 days ago, but you told me how you and Lori Manny actually met online. Share that, because that's just wild.
I got a phone call one afternoon from Lori wanting to know how to put a link in a post.
How to put a link in a post. Imagine Lori Manny asking how to put a link in a post. You know, she was the queen of backlinks, and you showed her how to put. You showed Lori Manny how to put a link in a post.
Yes. It was looking back, it's kind of a surreal thought, but right now, you know, we traded teacher-student role all the way through our friendship, teaching each other things and learning from each other as we went along.
And then rising to the top of the pile in terms of real estate blogging and what you've accomplished. So what I'm showing on the screen right now, what we're looking at is a post with your picture and Lori's superimposed on top. But that was a rather seminal moment, I think, in Active Rain. So talk a little bit about Active Rain and what you and Lori actually did. You were the very first moderators at Active Rain, weren't you?
Along with Rich Jacobson and Mark Flanders. The four of us were the initial moderators in the system. It really honed our ability to know what was a good article, what wasn't a good article, and really taught us how to structure our posts so that they were appealing to the consumer, yet they also did well in search engines.
Okay, in the search engine, so you learned that there. And this post was actually a Lori Manny challenge that you and she came up with. What were you challenging? What were you trying to do with Active Rain, and what did you learn with that?
At the time, everybody was writing everything that was featured. So you would see, let's say we featured an article about home staging. Well, the next 500 articles that would go up would be about home staging. And the readers were just regurgitating a lot of the same information, and nobody was being really creative, and the writing got to be very hard to read. And I started searching out other blogs, looking out on the internet, reading different writers, and it was changing the way I was writing. And Lori and I noticed that the more we read other people outside of the real estate industry, it was affecting how we were writing for real estate. And it was doing a very positive change in our writing. And we thought that it would benefit a lot of other writers if we created this contest. And at the time, linking outside of Active Rain was really looked down upon. You didn't do that. You didn't leave Active Rain. You kept it all in Active Rain. And
that was the prevailing point of view before you started this Lori Manny challenge, that you just link to other people in Active Rain and just kind of keep it all in-house and, you know, just within the community.
And what we discovered was that outgoing links were just as important as incoming links. So the readership swelled after that. Yeah. And that's about the time that we decided to buckle down and focus on our outside blogs, our own personal blogs, where the content was controlled by us, where we were not giving anybody an opportunity to see another writer. It was all us all the time.
Okay.
And that was an important decision on our part.
Okay, and that's when you went to WordPress and did your own blog on your own site.
Right. And at that time, Lori had already had her blog, so it was me that finally made that jump over to my own personal blog.
Okay, so we're looking at that right now. And when you left Active Rain, you started your own blog, and you have two different URLs, two different web domain names. So you have Buffalo Niagara Real Estate Home Sales.com, and you've got BestBuffaloHomes.com. So tell us, you know, what are those two domain names about, and why are there two names?
I started with Buffalo Niagara Real Estate Home Sales.com, but as you can tell, it's not very consumer friendly. So then I started this whole branding that Best Buffalo Homes, and so then I purchased the BestBuffaloHomes.com URL, and it's just pointing to the first URL. Okay.
So, and then what happened when you went to WordPress? What kind of changes happened?
I was seeing more leads that were coming through, a little better quality of leads, and then especially once I integrated IDX solution into it, the leads started to swell significantly.
Okay, and IDX, of course, is when you have some code on your website that lets people search for houses in your multi-list. Now, when you were on Active Rain, you know, is it possible ever to measure traffic. I mean, that's the one thing over there that's a tough thing, I think, for bloggers who want to be able to benchmark their results and track their progress. You can't really track the number of people who come to your website, can you, or the number of page
they
views
allow
you have?
They allow you to see the number of views a page gets, but it's not necessarily really beneficial, whereas in WordPress I can actually see where they're coming from, what they're clicking on, if they're clicking through, how long they're staying on my site, and those kind of details, which are much more important to me.
Sure. And what kind of people are coming? I mean, in numbers, what kind of people are coming to visit you every day?
We average between 500 and 700 unique visitors a day.
Uh-huh.
And they average between 3 and 5 pages a day each. So
they're clicking on 3 to 5 pages a day, and they're hanging out there. That's really, really, really good. And you have an enormous number of people actually who, percentage-wise, who come to you from the blog.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to exactly say the numbers because I've got things kind of integrated with multiple sites now, and I'm not 100% sure where everything is coming from at this point. But because I've got such a spider web of activity out there, a good percentage of the leads are coming right from my blog. And the number of leads. This is really, really good. You know what and why I chuckle about this is I was at a real estate conference not too long ago in Arizona here, and people are talking about Active Rain, and of course Active Rain has a lot of anecdotal information. Oh, well, I got a lead. I got some leads here. I got some leads there. But it's an interesting kind of a way to relate stories because 4 or 5 or 10 leads in the course of a year on Active Rain sometimes is touted as a lot, and I find that interesting that that people embrace that as a real big success story. So on the heels of that, when we consider that some people think that maybe 10 leads a year coming out of Active Rain is something. I left like the Dickens the other day when you told me how many leads you had from the time you went to bed to the time we spoke in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that was what? There were 9 leads from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m.
I know. And so this is what you're doing every day. You're doing this every day with your blog, aren't you?
Yeah. In fact, while we've been on the phone with this conference, my phone has beeped in twice, and I know that they're coming from the website because there's only the phone number that they call through is right from the web. It's the only place that number is advertised.
Okay, so your internet lead generation is keeping you very, very busy, and you have a team. Talk a little bit about how you're set up, Colleen, because you're getting a phenomenal amount of lead interest there.
Right. Well, there's 4 of us on the team that work very tightly together. I basically focus on the lead generation. I've got Kristen, Kim, and Scott who basically work with all the buyers. And then the 4 of us are working with listings as we see who's better fit to work with the listing.
Which is great, which is absolutely wonderful. Do you love it, Denise? Do you like those numbers?
Well, I don't think those numbers I haven't heard those numbers being repeated. I mean, that's impressive. What I love, Colleen, is when you joke and say, I go to bed, I wake up in the morning, and I have a lead generation machine, and people are dying to find out specifically, okay, well, how do I do it? I've got a blog, and, I rarely even get somebody commenting on my blog, so it's going to be really exciting to hear, what are the steps? What does that look like? So great job, Colleen.
Well, thank you.
And those comments are interesting, too, because, again, a lot of people are under the impression that the success of a blog is somehow connected with the number of comments that they have on a blog post. So, Colleen, do you get a lot of comments on your blog posts?
I've had 3 comments since January 1.
3 comments. Okay, 3 comments since January 1. And how many leads, just roughly?
From those 3 comments?
No, not
or
from 3 comments.
You want the leads? My team, we started tracking leads February 1st, and since February 1st we have 1,768 leads as of 10 minutes ago.
Okay, and so could I ask you, would you trade those leads for points or comments on a blog?
No.
I'm being facetious. I mean, obviously, I'm being facetious. That's incredible. And so here's a neat slide too that we're looking at, because we're looking at a new one now. Colleen has something new on her website, and of course we're here, as part of Club HUD and Government Home Sales Professionals. So what we're looking at here is a new couple of words here, some new keywords on your website. Talk a little bit about this, Colleen.
I am now working on the HUD Homes keyword set, and since we went through the program, everybody on my team has gone through the program now. We're actively seeking out getting the listings with HUD Homes. So what I needed to do is establish us as a resource for the community.
Mm-hmm. And so you have articles online, and you have established HUD as a category on your horizontal navigation bar on your website. And when we talk about website, let me just be clear about this too. Colleen is working with WordPress. WordPress is a framework that is a website. It has a blog that's attached to it. Some people use the word blog a little bit too loosely, because WordPress is not just about having a blog and writing something chronological. As Joe Ferrara said, what Colleen has done is created like a magazine or a newspaper online, and she has articles and resources and information about properties and all kinds of things. And as you can see here at that top bar, under HUD Home, she has categories: HUD financing, HUD contract sales, sales packages, HUD bid periods, and you're writing articles about these things, correct?
Correct. It's so important to have the information out there so that the consumer can find it.
And tell me what happened. Didn't an agent call you the other day about HUD Homes from your market area?
Yes, it was actually an agent down in Chautauqua who happened to call me and was looking for information about a listing. It wasn't in the Chautauqua MLS. It was in the Buffalo MLS, and of course they didn't have access to the Buffalo MLS. And they saw my article through searching on Google about the property, and then they were like, "What do you mean you're not the listing agent?" But so
yeah, I mean, that is the power. Yeah, that's the power that you have with search SEO. That's search engine optimization. And like Joe said, you owned SEO for Buffalo real estate sales. You still own the SEO for the area, and now you're picking it up for HUD Homes. This is the and you own it for open houses. I mean, I'm showing the slide right now of Buffalo open houses, and on Google, not only are you on the front page, you have the first and second positions for open houses. On Buffalo real estate, you have the first position on Google for Buffalo real estate. So, like he says, I mean, you still own it. I mean, you're ahead of Zillow, you're ahead of Realtor.com, you're ahead of Trulia, and you're doing it on your own with your blog, with your WordPress site. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. It took a lot of hard work to get there. It's not something that you can just say, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and it's going to be the case. It takes a lot of work, and a lot of attention needs to be paid.
And now we're looking at, you have another blog, another WordPress blog on WordPress.com. So tell me about this. Now, your main blog is Best Buffalo Homes, but you have some other sites also. So tell me how that works.
Well, I use those to kind of support different keywords, like downtown Buffalo, New York is a keyword that I was trying to go after, and I wanted to keep it very focused. So I created this downtown Buffalo, New York WordPress blog, just so that it was something that supported my site, but yet I could work on getting some keywords in a different URL.
Yeah, isn't that just brilliant, Denise? So this is a feeder blog.
Sorry, Fran, I was just going to say, what I really find so impressive about what Colleen has done, not only is she beating out the big boys, but what she's doing so well. And I really believe this is why her blog is doing well and has done so well, is if you even take a look at what she's done with the HUD homes information. Colleen made a decision that she was going to take the government home sales professional program, but not just taking that information and having it, she's now sharing that with the public. And that's what consumers want. Consumers want to work with the person who has the information and the person that is the expert. And that really comes through on the blog and on both blogs very clearly. So I think that was a really great strategy.
Well, thank you.
I love it. I was looking at Colleen's blog this morning, and I'm looking at HUD homes, and Colleen has HUD homes that she's featuring. Of course, you don't have to be the listing agent to show HUD homes and to advertise them, but she's got them on third level domains, and it looks like, I mean, it's just phenomenal. The listing agents who have HUD homes around the country, 90% of them that I look at don't display HUD homes nearly as good as Colleen does in Buffalo, not even having the listings yet.
And maybe, Fran, if you ladies could explain third-level domains to people that are listening that do not understand what that means.
Oh, thank you for that. Do you want to explain what you're doing there, Colleen?
You go ahead.
Okay. Well, Colleen has her domain, which is BuffaloNiagaraRealEstate.com or whatever that is, or BestBuffaloHomes.com. And what she will do is she will take a listing and create a page for a listing, and then assign that listing a address dot colleensblog.com. So it will show up. It will have its own URL that's kind of easy to see, easily identifiable. And the way she's doing it is a way that is going to just invite those little search engine spiders to come nibbling along. And when people are looking for information about HUD homes or they're looking for that property, she's going to be first in line. Because when Colleen gets online at the search engine, she doesn't settle for anything but front of the line for whatever keyword she wants. She decides what she wants, and she goes and she gets it. And, she does, and I remember talking to Lori about that. You two are like the best in town for doing that. And you're blogging about your market. That's the other thing. You're relevant, like Joe said. That's all relevant material. I mean, what do you blog about? And aren't you didn't you go through a little bit of an evolution in blogging from when you lived and worked in Florida to Buffalo? Wasn't there a change, and didn't you have an aha there that you told me about?
Yeah. When I was in Florida, I was playing to the national market. I was playing to every realtor across the nation, and I was really not focused on real estate as tightly as I should have been. So when I moved up to Buffalo, I made the decision to focus solely on Western New York and what's going on real estate-wise here. And very rarely do I worry about what is going on nationally. I have a few friends of mine that have properties that they have listed in markets that we call Snowbird Central, and I share those listings with people that generally leave Western New York for the winter for parts that are warmer. But beyond that, my site is focused on real estate only.
Yeah, and you don't have a lot of links to a lot of other websites. You do have an area on your website that you have relocation resources where you have links to people in some of those other states. And that's a rather small list, but you vet your list very carefully before you put a link on your blog, don't you?
Especially with the relocation partners, they're people that I trust and value in what they do, and their business practices align with my business practices. So anybody that's working with me would feel just as comfortable with the people that are in my referral network.
Uh-huh. And who are some of those people in your referral network?
Let's see. We've got Missy Cock. We have Inez Garcia. We have Cindy Hayden and Carol Del Rossio out in Seattle, who I was just out there with. And then Kay Thomas down in Manhattan Beach, California.
And there's Silicon Valley. I see a link for Silicon Valley.
Oh, yes. Oh, Mary Pope Handy, who could not adore what she writes about up there. She's another very locally focused blogger. And Irina down in Pasadena.
Uh-huh.
So
these are all people that you know that when people click on the link and they take a look in those areas, if they're thinking about relocating to one of those areas, that they'll be taken care of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the thing that a lot of us just went overboard, and putting a lot of links, reciprocal links on blogs years and years ago without a whole lot of attention to what was going to happen if people actually talked to people. They might have had some good blogs, but, follow through with something that was interesting.
Absolutely.
And technology. So tell me about the technology. What do you use for your computer and your phone?
I am a BlackBerry person. I have looked at the Android, and I just find that BlackBerry is a better phone for me. My phone is not about business. I use a Toshiba laptop for my day-to-day work, and I am patiently waiting for my iPad to arrive.
Okay. And the BlackBerry, you do a lot of email, don't you?
Yeah, and that's kind of why I made the decision that, if you look at the number of emails that come flying through my accounts, I can easily have a 500 email day. So it's real important that I just have a really easy tool to use. And everybody has to make that decision for themselves. I mean, my team, Kristen is there with me in the BlackBerry world, and Kim and Scott swear by their Android. So everybody has what makes work for them.
Yeah. So, clearly your blog is your center of gravity, unless I'm missing something. So, tell me what you think about social media and generally speaking for real estate agents. How do you look at that?
Social media is a way to drive traffic to your blog. Your blog should be the place that you want people to end up. I think some of the people out there are paying way too much attention to social media and not enough to the content that they're providing for their buyers and sellers out there. And people really pay attention to that. They really look at what you're providing on your site. You might get them there once with one click, but are you keeping them? Are they really compelled to pick up the phone and call you? A lot of times we get people that pick up the phone as opposed to signing into one of our contact forms. Through this call now, I've had 5 phone calls come through. So people are compelled to pick up the phone as opposed to signing in on the contact form.
And I just want to jump in here for a second, Colleen, because I really want to stress the point you just made about social media. So many agents are spending just an incredible amount of time with social media, and social media definitely has a place in your business. But what I really like about what you're doing is you're giving people a reason to want to engage with you and talk with you. It's not like you're just on social media, just spreading non-important news or updates. What you're doing is you're really getting into a topic like HUD Homes. You definitely sound like you know what you're talking about. You're providing information with no strings attached. So what happens is people want to talk to you. And the whole, your point about they're just picking up the phone tells me that they're already beyond wondering if you're the right choice. Now they just want to chat with you. That's impressive. Right. That's a successful blog. Wow.
And that's kind of what we feel too. It's gotten to the point that I can't be the only one answering the phone. So so all 4 of us, the phone rings, it rings for all 4 of us, and whoever can grab it first is grabbing it first. We've had to do a little bit of work on how to handle people, because a lot of times they're like, I want to talk to Colleen.
Sure.
But, the right script and the...
What I was going to say is that just speaks to how effective the blog is, because right off the bat, they're like, no, I want Colleen. Colleen is all-knowing. She's the one I want to talk to. And that really is what I want the listeners to get from today, is that blogging is not just about going online and having random, non-important things to say. Same thing with social media. If you're going to say it, it needs to mean something. And your blog, the way that you have created it and the way that you manage it and provide content, I believe that you must always be thinking about the content, and you're doing that. And that gets your phone ringing, which is fabulous.
Absolutely. And you have to kind of have a balance in what you're providing. If I write too much on one topic, I tend to get slanted that way. So then you have to bring it back, and so you're always watching what you're writing, how you're writing it. And there are times that I go back and I fix articles that I wrote one way, and I go, that doesn't come off right. Go in and fix it.
So I would love to hear, I know the listeners would love to hear this as well, how do you figure out what content you are going to include in your blog?
I try and keep a balance of about, if you look at every 10 articles, there should be one or two that are related to actual listings that are up. 3 or 4 of them are focused more on the market report and what's going on in the market. That seems to be the biggest draw to my site. People want to know how many homes are on the market. What's the average price? What's the average days on market? What's the highest price home sold in Amherst this year? They're looking for those kind of pieces of information to make decisions. And then I try and write about buyers and sellers, and then always try and write something very specific about financing and something about HUD. As we're growing in this HUD arena, those articles are becoming more important right now.
So you really have a nice formula. I love how you really know that formula, too, when you say, well, about every 10th article needs to be on that. So, Fran, I find this, this whole discussion around content and, what Colleen is writing about and putting up there is fascinating. The other thing I love, Colleen, is that you're saying, look, the consumers just want to know things like days on market. They want to know what the highest price home is. And this is information that agents have at their, disposal and at their fingertips. But what you're doing is you're becoming a resource and the expert. Great stuff.
Thank you.
And that's very, very true. And I think that one of the things that excited me about getting to know Colleen, about getting to know Lori Manny, when I did, because I knew Lori for a long time, was just the way they approached this editorially. My background is in magazine publishing. I worked in Manhattan for 10 years on magazines before I ever went into real estate. I still have a yen for that type of activity. I still like to write. I still like the editorial part of online publishing. And what they have done, and what Colleen has done just brilliantly, as a natural course of events, has devised an online publishing platform that supports her business in an absolutely the most perfect way possible. I mean, she has a combination. If I was to sit down and analyze this as an editor, I see a blend of evergreen material that is not necessarily related to anything, that has to be thought about today or tomorrow. There's articles about buying a house, selling a house. Of course, a listing is time specific. A listing has a time attached to it. But it's absolutely the perfect formula, and she came up with this, designed this, and it's just a textbook example of the most perfect way to build an online magazine to support your business that I've ever seen anywhere. And that's one of the reasons I was so excited about doing this. We've been, I've been talking to Colleen. I've been following Colleen for a long time, and it just is perfect. I remember talking to Lori Manny last year. God rest her soul. But I was talking to Lori at a time that she was getting ready to bring a fourplex on the market, and she was working with a seller down in Long Beach, California, and she was getting ready to put this property on the market. The seller was still working. And then the 2 weeks prior to actually listing this property, she was starting to seed her blog and seed the net with stories that were relative and germane to that type of property. She was talking about investment property. She was talking about, investment properties in Long Beach, what that market looked like. She was starting to talk about that neighborhood. And by the time that property came on the market, she had already seeded it enough, she already had enough interest, and there were already enough links within her own blog that when she linked the actual listing, she had people already ready to look at it. And it was just brilliant. It was just using the information at hand, taking the market that was very, very specific to the listing that she was going to be getting. And now I see Colleen doing the same kinds of things, with HUD homes, and I find that very exciting and just totally brilliant.
Well, and it's not always the same thing. When I first went over to the magazine platform, Lori called me up yelling at me, saying, "You're going to screw your blog. This is the worst thing in the world you could do." And within a couple weeks, I started to rise up in the rankings of the search engines, and we were watching my site pretty closely then because it was still a bit of a baby. And then one day she called me up and she goes, "You know what? It's absolutely brilliant. We need to change mine over to a magazine now." And it was just, it was just how it felt right to be a magazine because that's what consumers want. I don't talk about posts, I talk about articles because it's more relatable to people. So,
Colleen, I got a couple questions that have been emailed to me that I'd love you to answer. Here's
okay.
the first one. I know Fran's got some more questions for you as well, but I have to jump in with this one. This is a great one. Colleen,
okay.
What was the biggest mistake you've ever made blogging? And can you talk about it?
Yes, I can talk about it. And maybe it's not a mistake, but it taught me, be careful what you blog about because it will come. It seems that every day we get people calling or emailing wanting to know about rent to own. So I get all these inquiries, and unfortunately there's not a lot out there in my market that supports rent to own. So it was a tiny little niche, and it's the most desired option for people. They think, "Oh my God, I can't buy a house, but maybe I can rent to own it." And then they don't understand the whole finances behind it. So that's probably my biggest mistake, is that I didn't understand the power of the site, and you have to be careful what you write about because it'll stay out there.
That's a great point. Okay, I have another question, and the question is, I am not a very good writer. Can you have a successful blog if you're not a very good writer, and how do you get those skills?
I wasn't a very good writer at the beginning. The first time, I can remember my first Active Rain post took me like 4 hours to write, and it was a market report. And it's very much like the market reports that I have today that take me 15 minutes to write. It's about knowing that you can't do something and figuring out how to do it well. And over time, you can evolve into a very good writer. It's a muscle. You exercise it, you get good at it. It gets better.
I really love that because I also have found that the more that you are blogging, you do get better because you also get feedback from people that are reading your blog. And also when you write something well and the phone starts ringing, you start to learn, oh, that's what gets people responding. That's what a call to action looks like. So I think that's really important. The next question I have for you, and then, Fran, I will let you continue on, is the next question is, how techno-savvy do you have to be these days in order to write a blog, manage a blog, and track all the leads from a blog? And I think this is a great three-part question, if you can answer that for the listeners.
I probably came to this more naturally than other people only because I came from the tech community before I was a realtor. So my background was in data warehousing. But that doesn't stop someone. Lori Manny was probably the best at this business and had no knowledge when she started, couldn't do an internal link on a post, and yet rocked it pretty quickly. It's about devotion to it. It's about learning what you need to learn and doing what you have to do. Did I answer all three parts? No.
Yeah, I think that's really clear. You know, one comment I just want to add is that, you know, I think because I have so many clients that really have a hard time with technology, I tell them take it in little bite-sized pieces. Actually, you know, go onto a site and learn about it. You can go onto WordPress, for example. They've got all sorts of tutorials and information and help. And then go onto YouTube and see what other people are saying and watch what they've done. You can get a wealth of information online. So, Fran, you got some more questions, I'm sure, for Colleen that you're just dying to ask her.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything she's saying is just so right. I mean, Colleen, you just have it. Let's talk a little bit more about the blog and the center of gravity and some of the stuff that you have that's feeding the blog. And while I do that, just before I do that, let me ask you one other question. If somebody was coming to you and they said, okay, I know I need to be doing this social media thing, I need to do a blog, what do I need to do first, where do I start, what would you say?
Start with your blog, because you need to be able to drive them to something so that they can relate to you. You know, and then it doesn't mean that you ignore social media, but you're not going to put as much emphasis on your social media as you would someone that has an established blog. Because what you really want to do is you want to pique somebody's interest so that they click on the link and they go to your site. Once they're on your site, you want to have it so that they're interested in clicking on something else, or they've read an article and you have other articles to read about and that you're clicking them there. Because what you want to do is establish your knowledge base, that people know that you know what you're doing and that they want to work with you.
Yeah, and that's very, very clear with what you're saying. I think one of the biggest ahas I get out of talking to you is listening to people, because you hear more and more, you know, a blog is not successful unless you have 1 million comments. A blog is not successful until you do this. But you've got people that are just calling you in great numbers, and they're coming to you from your blog, and that just dispels a myth to me. I think it is a myth that you need to have a lot of comments on a blog post to get business, because, you know, the comment that you want is the comment that is, you know, will you come to work for me?
Right. You want to be dealing with buyers and sellers, and that's it. Really, that's all you want. You know, the dialogue is nice and the accolades are wonderful, but when it gets down to it, is how does it affect your pocketbook?
Yeah. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about the feeder site. So you've got the WordPress site about downtown Buffalo, and that's a feeder site. And then don't you also have another blog over in Trulia?
Yes, I have a blog on Trulia that I blog maybe once a month if things are quiet. I really don't put a lot out there. Sometimes I'll answer questions on Trulia Voices. But that's feeding content into me, you know, basically backlinks. And then I have a blogger blog that links into it. And then I use, you know, Active Rain, of course, to kind of feed content back into it, and a bunch of other sites. And then, of course, you have the social media, the Twitter and the Facebook, that actually send people to my site.
Uh-huh. And how much time do you spend, if you were to look at the course of the day, how much time do you spend on your blog relative to the rest of social media?
I try and do 10 minutes of social media a day to my blog.
Uh-huh.
Because we have so many market reports, so many listings, so many things going on the blog that need to be updated. You know, there's an hour or two a day that are dedicated to to that process alone.
Okay, and that's an hour. You know, I just want to clarify that a little bit, too, because you may be spending a couple of hours on the blog, but those are hours that are research, that are market research. You're compiling market reports. You're doing the type of work that is really customer service related. I mean, I'm sure that's information also that your sellers and your present clients like, you know, to keep up with the market. So it's not just being done to put out there on a blog post, you know, without having another purpose as well. So you're doing a lot of customer service work that is work that you're sharing and work that you're creating for existing clients and customers, and you're taking that, too, and you're scaling it, so you're sharing it. I think.
Well, it also important to know is that a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, like especially with the research on the ML and what's going on with the statistics and everything, makes me able to talk about properties off the cuff. I mean, I get a phone call from somebody that goes, well, what's going on in Lewiston? And I can, off the top of my head, without having to go search it out, talk about it because I know that I did a market report last week and I have a really good sense of what's going on in that market. And that helps me be a better realtor because I can respond to questions a lot quicker than maybe another realtor because I just have the knowledge in my head.
Perfect. Absolutely. So actually having a blog and doing it that way doesn't just show that you're the expert. It doesn't just demonstrate that you're the expert. It helps make you the expert and helps create you and raise your level of expertise higher than it would have been if you weren't blogging.
Exactly.
Oh, it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. I love it. Just love it. Are you doing much on Facebook? So 10 minutes a day on social media, 10 minutes a day.
That's it.
I think that's
you know, it's about putting something on our fan page, maybe putting something on our company's fan page, putting something maybe on my site, maybe not. I try on my personal page, you know, out of 25 posts, now this is real important, out of 25 posts, I try and have 2 out of 25 be about real estate, and the rest are fun things that might make people connect with me that are totally unrelated to real estate.
Like those shoes. I see shoes appearing on Facebook.
Yes. Shoes are kind of a little homage to Lori Manny because Lori used to send me shoes all the time.
Is that right? Okay.
She used to send me pictures of shoes going, what about this pair? What about that pair? Isn't this a gorgeous pair? So it just became kind of my little thing to do. And I've actually made a few friends from posting shoes, so it's kind of cool.
Uh-huh. So I think, Denise, is this a perfect, strategy? I mean, Colleen, you're just being Colleen and sharing ideas.
I love that.
Yeah.
And, Fran, here's what Colleen's doing right. So, Colleen, first of all, I got to tell you that you're doing so many things right. But what I love about what you're doing is that, in essence, you are doing consistent lead generation. You know, people ask all the time. The biggest question I get is, Denise, how do I generate more leads? Denise, how do I make more money in real estate? Denise, how do I get out of the debt I'm in? It all comes back to lead generation. You cannot have a successful real estate business if you don't have the leads coming in. The leads feed the business. You know, the leads are what get you to the transaction. And when you're talking about your blog, it truly is such a great lead generation tool for you. And what you're doing is you're investing time on a daily basis to take care of those leads, to process those leads, to help those clients, to make sure that your blog has good information. And that's lead generation. That is a great lead generation system. And, you know, there's been a lot of criticism over the years about blogging and what age, you know, how to do it right, you know, the things that you need to do and not, you know, and shouldn't do. And I think agents can really take some great lessons from you on the things that you are doing right in your blog. I just can't tell you how excited I am that you said, look, I'm only spending 10 minutes a day in social media. And I'll tell you, the reason that agents are not even getting into the social media arena is because the technology scares them. They don't understand it. They think that they need to spend hours on social media every day. And what you've given so many listeners today, such a great level of hope is that, okay, I can have a blog. I can start my blog and really concentrate on what I know. I know real estate. I understand the market. I know days on market. I know, list to sell price ratios. I know absorption. I understand what's going on in the marketplace. I can provide that kind of information, take care of my blog every day, maintain my social media, but really invest your time in that blog, and people are going to want to talk to you. What I loved is what you said earlier when you said people are actually calling. They're not even filling out the forms anymore. They're at the point now where they've already figured out that you're the expert. So just the lessons alone, and I love the way that you've simplified it. If you were to get on this call today, and the reason that I was so excited when Fran told me you were going to do this is because, when you and I met and spoke when you were in Seattle, it was so great to sit down and, you're pretty no-nonsense. Look, here's how I do this, and you're so eager and willing to share what you've done. So I just appreciate it. But I think you've made this simpler for people. I also don't think that listeners realize that, you have to start someplace. And listeners, please don't get discouraged. Colleen has been investing a lot of time and energy into her blog. It's not an overnight success story. I bet you Colleen will share that she's invested a lot of time. And Colleen, I just want you to address that for our listeners. What can people expect when they start blogging? When should they start to see some results? And what kind of time do they need to invest to get to that point?
Well, let me just take you through the evolution of my blog with Buffalo. I started it in November of 2007, and that was when I was waiting for my New York State license to come, because you have to go through the whole process here. And so I had time on my hands, and so I had all this content that was related to Florida. So I spent the time, and I hit the ground running with a site that had about 100 articles at the time that I was licensed. And it took me probably 6 months to get up onto the search engines. And then it took me probably so it was probably about the year anniversary that I hit page 1 on some of my keywords. Not all of them, some of them. And they were the long tail ones. They were, Buffalo real estate homes, for sale. There were weird keyword combinations. It took me probably about 18 months to get up onto page 1 for Buffalo homes. And that took a lot of work. And it doesn't happen overnight. You have to really work at it. And there have been periods of time where I would spend days on the site working on it, structuring it, redoing things. It's an evolution. It's never the same as when you started. You may go in one direction and then you'll decide, oh, you know what, I got to change this. I got to go in another direction. And that's okay. You just have to know that it takes time. It's just like farming in a neighborhood. It takes 2 years before they really trust you. And it's really in the last, since August of last year was when it was starting to really spike. The leads were coming through, and now I'm on overload. There's 4 of us, and we can't handle all the leads.
Well, that's impressive. I do want to just make a couple of comments, Colleen. I love that you admitted earlier that you weren't a natural writer. I thought that was really gave our listeners some hope. The one thing that I've heard other bloggers say is that they kind of, when it comes to the writing, they actually get a lot of inspiration from other bloggers and other sites. Can you just address that and also address the issue about, people have to be very careful these days about what information they take from other sites. And if you are taking information from other sites, what tips do you have for our listeners on that?
Okay, well, 1, thou shalt not take from another blogger. You do not steal. The best advice I have, and I can tell you that take inspiration from somebody. If somebody writes an article about home staging, give them a link and write your own analysis about their article and say, you know, Denise is right on about the home staging, and this is what she said, and this is what I think, and put your own picture in. Don't steal pictures from each other. Or if you're going to put in a picture, ask for permission. You know, it's so important to be able to do that. You know, create your own graphics. I create a lot of my own graphics because I don't want to get into trouble with anyone.
And you're always evolving.
Yes, it's always evolving. It never is the same thing. What I thought 5 years ago that I could never do, I'm doing on a daily basis.
Wow. And those numbers are just wild. And I think the trajectory probably is going to be taking you onward and upward, and if it was 1,700 leads in the past few months, it's going to be even more than that, you know, moving on, because you keep writing and you keep building. So you're going to be a fun person to watch, Colleen. I can't wait to talk to you again in about 6 months from now.
Oh, well, I really appreciate it. I think, you know, and my team is starting to write, so they're learning how to write, and so they're growing as well.
Wow. Well, this has just been absolutely phenomenal, and I think of all of our calls so far, Denise, this has to be one of my favorite, Colleen. I am so grateful that you came on and talked to us today and shared.
Well,
I mean, this is just great.
And, Colleen, I want to just say something to you. I want to personally say thank you because, you know, there's so many great agents out there that really need this information, and they so appreciate you sharing. I mean, this is your business. This is your livelihood. I can't tell you how many people that I've personally asked, successful agents, that are doing a level of blogging that I think is respectable. I mean, you're at a whole other level. But to have somebody at your level say openly to Fran and I'd love to be on the call. I want to share what I'm doing. That just speaks volumes about who you are. We will have you on another call. I can promise our listeners that. I want to thank everyone today for joining Fran and I also want to remind you that we've got some other great calls coming up. Our next call is, I'm really excited about, on May 27th, is online and offline HUD seminar event planning. And, Colleen, I know you'll be on that, and please join us for that. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email either Fran or myself. And, again, Colleen, thank you so much. What a wealth of incredible information. And until next time, listeners, remember, get out there and be the HUD expert that you are, just like Colleen has done. She's taken this program and really run with it. So please do the same. Take some incredible inspiration from today, and we look forward to our next call with you. Thank you, guys. Get out there and have a great week.